Okay, let's get right into it. A massive, and I mean massive, trove of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein has just been released by the House Oversight Committee. It's an absolute flood of information, and it's kicked up a huge storm of speculation online. So what we're going to do here is try to cut through all that noise and get to the facts. What's actually in these files, what's genuinely new, and what this whole thing really means for transparency. First off, let's just wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this. We're talking about 33,295 pages of documents. To put that into perspective, that's like reading the entire Harry Potter series almost 8 times over. It is a monumental amount of information, and it all came straight from the Department of Justice. And that brings us to the big question, right? With a data dump this huge, the internet is just buzzing with theories. But what's actually new here? Our mission today is to separate the verified information from all the chatter and figure out what this release truly changes, if anything. So where did all this come from? Well, this release is from the GOP-led House Oversight Committee, and they're specifically calling it the first tranche. Now, pay attention to that word, tranche, because it definitely suggests this might just be the beginning. There could be more documents on the way. So what's actually inside this mountain of paper? It really boils down to 3 main things. First up, you've got official court documents and legal filings. You know, the official stuff that gives all the legal context. Then there are the now famous flight logs, and we're going to dig into those in just a minute. And maybe the most intriguing part, there's actual video footage from the hallway outside Epstein's cell right before he died. Now, here's a really important piece of context from House Democrats. A lot of this information isn't brand new. A good chunk of it has been public before, but it was scattered all over the place. So why is this a big deal? Well, the real significance might not be some single bombshell. It's the fact that for the very first time, all this data is in one place, which lets people connect the dots in a way they never could before. But among all those thousands and thousands of pages, there is one very specific, very concrete new detail that's come to light. And it has everything to do with that video footage from outside Epstein's cell. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. In the versions of the security footage that were released before, there was this mysterious, unexplained gap. 1 full minute of video was just gone. This new release actually fills in that blank. That single minute, which has now been recovered, is at the very center of a lot of new questions and intense scrutiny about what really happened in that cell block. So, let's be super clear. Does this recovered minute of video solve the whole mystery of Epstein's death? Nope, but it is incredibly important for the official record. It's about plugging a hole in the investigation and making sure the timeline of evidence is complete and not compromised. All right, let's talk about the flight logs. This is easily the most talked about part of the document drop, but it's also where the most misinformation is spreading like wildfire. So it's absolutely vital that we get clear on what these logs can, and maybe more importantly, what they cannot tell us. Think of it this way. The flight logs, they're really powerful for mapping a network. They can help establish timelines and show who was around whom. But, and this is the critical part, they are not proof of a crime. Just because someone's name is on a flight log, that does not automatically mean they are guilty of anything. It's a lead. It's not a conviction. And that's why context is everything. A name on a flight log on its own is just one data point. Its true meaning only really comes out when you look at it alongside other evidence. You know, things like court documents, witness depositions, and financial records. The logs have to be seen as just one piece of a much, much larger puzzle.
You know, this document release isn't just some random event. It's happening as part of a much bigger story, a broader push from the public and from politicians for more government transparency, especially when it comes to these huge, high-profile cases.
And that push now has an official name, Senate Bill 2557, also known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The goal here is pretty simple. Make more records connected to this case public and hopefully create some clear rules for how this kind of information gets disclosed in the future. So, where is this bill right now? Well, it's at the very beginning of what could be a long journey. It's been introduced and sent over to the Senate Judiciary Committee for them to look at. That means it's not a law yet. It's basically waiting in line. And this is a stage where, frankly, a lot of bills end up stalling out. Of course, just releasing this much sensitive information out into the open brings up a huge and really critical question. What is our ethical responsibility as media, as individuals, in how we talk about and share all of this? When we talk about this, responsible coverage really comes down to a few key ideas. First, and this is the most important one, it means centering the voices and the experiences of the survivors. It also means we all have to be disciplined in separating what's a verified fact from what's just wild speculation. And finally, the focus has to be on institutional accountability. It's not just about individuals. It's about asking the tough questions. How did our systems of justice and law enforcement fail so badly?
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The real headline here isn't just more Epstein files. The much bigger story is whether this moment forces a permanent change, creating a new standard level of transparency for all major investigations from now on. That's the real test of its impact.
So that's really the ultimate question we're left with. Is this release the beginning of a whole new era of real transparency, or are we just getting more information to argue about online without any actual systemic change to follow? The answer to that question is what will define the true legacy of these files.